What is going on, you knuckleheads? Um, so, man, we got some crazy ass stuff to talk about. My goodness. So, yesterday, um, oh man. Jeez, what is his freaking name? I cannot, I cannot think of this guy's name. Oh, never mind. There it is. There it is, James Earl Jones. So, Mr. So yeah, Mr. James Earl Jones passed away yesterday, September 9th. And yeah, it's good to see people obviously paying some kind of homage. Yeah, and probably his two more iconic roles is voicing is more of voice characters for Darth Vader and Mufasa from the original Lion King. I think he voiced Mufasa in the recent remake Lion King. And yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool to see a lot of the different roles. Even some I didn't even like. I didn't even know he was in Big Bang Theory. Didn't even know about that one. That's pretty cool. Anyways, yeah, kind of a bummer. Always enjoyed him. Oh, dude, him in Sandlot, dude, fantastic. He also played in shit, Field of Dreams. He was also in Field of Dreams, which was phenomenal as well. He must have really liked baseball. Two iconic baseball movies. Or did he make those movies iconic? So, yeah, there it is, Field of Dreams. Yep, really, really freaking cool, man. To see everybody throwing out the love for one of the greatest. I mean, just absolutely not even just a voice actor or actor, just a phenomenal human being. Mr. James Earl Jones. All right. On to other things. We got some election stuff coming up tonight. We have a debate coming up. I do have it ready to roll here. It's going to be coming from ABC News, so they are going to live stream. I was actually glad that they're going to send it on to YouTube. So when we get to, we got plenty of time before that, but we'll live stream. I'll live stream it here. We can talk about it. Whatever, doesn't matter. I think most people kind of know which way they're going. Most people do know which way they're going. They're gonna vote, but for those that need to be informed, whatever, you should be informed. There is no decision that you should make other than an informed decision. That's the only kind of decision you should make. The other thing, Tyreek Hill, man. We can talk about this, then we can go and talk about football. So Tyreek Hill. Obviously there was a crazy incident that happened Sunday, before the Miami Dolphin game, where Tyreek Hill was put on the ground, and here you go. And the effed up part about it is kind of just how the cops escalate, and they escalated kind of aggressively. And I get, it's not that Tyreek Hill doesn't have some blame on it, on the situation. He rolled up his window after he already engaged, like you'll see it here, after he had already engaged in talking with the cops. And why is there 4 cops here? Like, what is the deal? Like, I don't understand that. So, anyways, you'll see him kind of roll up his window here. Yeah, he rolls up his window, and they ask him to roll it back down, and it takes him for a bit. And then, so that's the part where Tyreek Hill was kind of like, he's kind of at fault here. He's like, well, why did you do that? One of the things that was kind of really weird about this situation here with Tyreek Hill is the simple fact that they pulled him over. Can you see inside that window? I sure the hell cannot. And they grab him out pretty aggressively. Like, he's not trying to fight it all that much. He goes straight to the ground. But the cop, and it's, I believe, I'm going to mute this. Oh my God. I'm going to mute this because I believe so this is the cop that initially started. I'm going to try and keep track of him because I don't think yeah. So the cop that initially started and here he comes, walks right here, and he's not the one involved in putting Tyreek Hill on the ground, on the pavement, and in handcuffs. And you see this guy's hands here is like super tatted up. Super tatted up. I question. I mean, I get it. Like, tattoos are pretty prevalent nowadays on people. But, man, like, for how prevalent they are, I don't know about that. But anyways, the cop that initially talks to Tyreek Hill says, yeah, you weren't wearing your seatbelt. Like, bro, you can't see in that damn window. Like, how in the world did you see? How in the world did you see that Tyreek Hill wasn't wearing a seatbelt? How did you see that? And then he comes over, and this cop kind of comes over and aggressively, puts his weight and drops him down to the ground. Like, these cops are pretty aggressive. And some of these guys that are coming up here, some of these pedestrians, these are like their players, his teammates, some of his teammates. Because, like, this is, I guess, not too far from the stadium. So, like, they're driving into the stadium. And so his teammates see what's going on. And Tyreek Hill there on the ground was actually yelling at his teammates like, hey, man, call Drew Drew Rosenhaus. And I'm going to get to Drew Rosenhaus here in a second. But his teammates, like, they're just all kind of in shock. And so I mean, this got to be definitely going into the stadium because you can see like barricaded off, like turning lanes and stuff like that. So, anyways, so obviously he's not doing anything. He's just, and this cop puts him in handcuffs. Anyways, the thing that's jacked up about it, and I'll see if I get to Tyreek Hill, Drew Rosenhaus statement. I'm not gonna I don't give a shit about Stephen A. Smith, dude. This happened to a white golfer. Okay, earlier in the year at the Masters. Was the Masters or the U.S. Open, whichever. Anyways, I'm trying to get to Tyreek Hill's agent. Tyreek Hill's agent calls for the firing of these cops, and you know, there's blame to go both ways. Absolutely. Like the cops escalated it, and Tyreek Hill just didn't. He also didn't respect them, their instructions. And Drew Rosenhaus has come out today calling for the firing of these police officers. I was kind of hoping I would. Drew, there we go. How about that? All right, Drew Rosenhaus. So basically calls for the firing of these guys, and that's the absolute that's not the right way to go. Like, we need to stop being so polarizing, right? We need to stop being like, if you do something bad, you got to go to the extreme measurement or you got to go to the extreme for punishment. And it's like, dude, it doesn't need to be like that. You know, do both of these, do all parties involved need to, you know, have a little sit down, have a little conversation? Yeah, I would say so. Like, people need to tell Tyreek, hey, if someone pulls you over, if the cop pull you over, whatever it is, you know, you don't disrespect them by rolling up your window. Like, you don't do that. Now, the cop saying, hey, we pulled you over because you weren't wearing a seatbelt, or he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, that was like the first thing he said. He didn't say anything about speeding. I saw something about speeding or whatever, but it's like, I didn't see anything about speeding. The cop didn't say anything about speeding. He said something about, you know, your seatbelt's not on. And I'm like, is that why you pulled him over? Because if so, you definitely couldn't see that shit. Especially driving. And this is like all parties involved here. Even the cop that initially started the conversation is not the one putting him on the ground. That's two other cops that come over. Why is there so many cops here involved in this situation? You also got to realize, you know, if you're a cop outside of a stadium, why? Like, if you see a Lamborghini or I mean, I'm assuming, I didn't really catch the kind of car it was, but if that's the kind of kind of car you're looking at here, like you gotta absolutely realize that. I mean, not saying this is a VIP, but it's not someone that you're just gonna be tossing around, you know. Anyways, there's multiple issues with this, but rolling up the hill or rolling up the window like that is very disrespectful, man. That's very disrespectful. But the cops escalated it really rapidly. And there was kind of just no need for that. All right. That is that situation. That was crazy. All right. Dude, this election fraud stuff is crazy. Like, mainstream media won't even cover this stuff anymore because Fox lost that lawsuit against Dominion. And dude, this stuff is nuts. Like, X is the only place where you'll see this stuff. So Maricopa County commit election fraud and maladministration during the. I was trying to figure out what word this was. Maladministration during the July primary. They erased results from election day at 9 to 20 vote centers. They erased result. Hold on. The July primary? Which primary? And illegally recounted the ballots. They broke the law. Where are the candidates? So this is Arizona? Oh, Arizona. Maybe. Election workers ripping Donald Trump's ballots live on Instagram. Okay, all right, we got a community note here. The video's creator made the video in 2020 as a joke to garner 2020. I was like, there's no way that's this year. I think they should also pass a law of fraudulent election advertising, even like that, to drive engagement. That should be illegal. That should not be legal. Anyways, still can't get over this Haitian dude walking around with an entire goose like it's a freshly prepared bag of Chick-fil-A. We are so good. Am I trapped in some collective conservative delusion that waterfowl hunting isn't immensely popular activity in America? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, hobbits pipe. It's also highly regulated. Regulated. I know. I go waterfowl hunting every year. Highly regulated. Freaking ridiculous, man. That's the difference. Okay? They say, oh, it's okay. We do it too. No. There's permitting. There's like safety courses you got to take to go hunting. Yeah. That's bullshit. Anyways, Kamala Harris, she can run over a child on live TV. I'm still going to vote for her. Yeah. Well, that's I believe it. All right. Let's see. Oh, he's okay. National rent control will destroy the incentive to build new housing. National food price controls on supermarkets, which only have few % profit margin, means empty shelves like Venezuela. Worth noting, the only time I've seen empty shelves in supermarkets my entire life was when Trump was president. Bro, you're too young for me to school your sorry piece of shit ass. Brian Tyler Cohn. Go to any supermarket when there's about to be a freaking hurricane. Trust me, it's empty. And the pandemic is a one-off that apparently was becoming more and more evident that that was global elites and pharmaceuticals and Democrats that set that shit up. But hey, if they didn't, you say a global pandemic kind of makes sense. Kamala Harris's management of the border crisis is nothing short of a reign of terror. Oh, this is a sheriff. Mike Boudreaux's full testimony today's hearing. Freedom tunes.
The fact is, the president is racist.
Kamala Harris is a fat bitch.
I'm speaking. And I'm a woman. Woman speaking. I am speaking.
Kamala,
I'm speaking.
Kamala. The moderators have decided that the mics will be muted like in the last debate, so no one can interrupt you. Isn't that great? The border has been a complete mess under her. The number of people entering this country has been bigger than maybe any time in history. People are struggling to afford food, and she wants to give more free stuff away.
Hilarious, man. So funny. Holy. Import the third world, become the third world. Dude, I wonder what they are cooking. What are they cooking up? Mmm. Interesting. I gotta play this.
Illegal immigrant. If you're active duty military in our country right now, state trooper, city cop, town cop, I guess this question is for you. Why the fuck are we not upholding the law towards the illegal immigrant situation? Okay, now it's getting close to home for me. And I'm not gonna fucking call a cop or a military member that has sat on their ass and not done shit about it for fucking 3.5 years. 3.5 hours from here, Springfield, Ohio, there's Haitian illegal immigrants killing ducks in recreational ponds and parks in front of families and children and eating them raw. Cats, dogs, whatever they can get their fucking hands on, okay? I'm fucking tired of this shit. I know a lot of people are tired of this shit. I don't go looking for trouble. I'll never start it, but I'll fucking finish this shit. It's pretty fucking simple. The answer is simple. I want to know who the fuck is telling y'all to stand down and not help the American people. Somebody in the comments, somebody that's active duty, fucking get a hold of me. I'm not going to learn on CNN or Fox News or social media the truth. I need to know from you. What the fuck is going on? Fuck this shit.
For real. Oh man. I need to check something out real quick. So I saw this. Let me. So a Guatemalan man sentenced. Let me blow this up a little bit because it's kind of small for me too. All right, so active United States Attorney. Oh my God, how long is this article? Okay, it's not horrible. Attorney Susan announced that Domingo Zitino Hernandez, 21 of Guatemala, was sentenced on November 14th, 2023. So not even a year ago. In federal court in Omaha, Nebraska, for violating the Bald and Gold Eagle Protection Act. The United States Magistrate Judge Michael Nelson sentenced Hernandez to time served. What? Zito has been in custody since March 20th, so about a year and a half, 2023. Hernandez is subject to removal proceedings with United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Excuse me. On or about February 28th, law enforcement received a report of a suspicious vehicle located at Wood Duck Wildlife Management Area, located in Staten County, Nebraska. Law enforcement arrived at Wood Duck and approached the vehicle with Hernandez Ramiro Hernandez, Tazikin, and Zito Hernandez as the occupants. During the encounter, Zito Hernandez admitted that he shot a bird and that it was in the trunk of the vehicle. Law enforcement obtained consent to search the vehicle and found one bald eagle carcass. Zito Hernandez admitted to taking and possessing the bald eagle found in the trunk of the vehicle without being permitted to do so. No shit. Co-defendant remains at large. Oh, remains at large. No kidding. You wouldn't say. Hernandez Tzatziki sauce, who was living in Norfolk, Nebraska at the time of the incident, is believed to have fled the local area around the time of his arrest warrant was issued and to date has not been located. Tzatziki sauce may currently be living with family or associates in Nebraska, Texas, or elsewhere. There you go. Well, there you go. Man eats bald eagle. There we go. Man sentenced for... I'm going to go to the sentence part because... A man has been sentenced. How long has he been sentenced? That's what I want to know. Sentenced after authorities saying he shot and killed a bald eagle. Second man. Still looking for the second man. Hernandez, 21, Guatemalan. Appeared in federal court, Omaha Tuesday. And was sentenced to time served for violating Bald and Gold Eagle Protection Act. According to this attorney, he has been in custody since March. He will also be subject to removal proceedings with the United States ICE. He pled guilty in August. The case began in February. Authorities, blah, 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 blah. I was trying to see how long he got sentenced to time served. I don't see... Crazy, man. It's crazy train. All right. Anyways. Cats in Ohio right now. That's hilarious. That's funny. That's funny. Dude, the memes, dude. Just so fucking hilarious. Does Harris... All right. Let's check out college football. So... No, sorry. Rankings. There we go. Go to rankings. All right. Now, let's talk about rankings of college football. Well, we'll just go through and talk about some of this stuff. Yeah, we'll just go through and talk about the teams. Georgia's rolling, looking pretty good. Texas, yeah, for those that were not aware, like I said last week, Texas is really freaking good. I said Texas would win by double digits. I just didn't think it'd be over in the second quarter. Dude, Texas came out and slaughtered Michigan, defending national champs. I mean, Michigan lost like their entire offense. I think like 10 out of their 11 starters on offense. So, yeah, I mean, Michigan, it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of rebuild that. The other thing is I was really kind of surprised that Michigan got off their game plan. Or I thought maybe I would have thought Michigan's game plan would have been a little bit more of leaning on the run, but man, they just weren't able to really run effectively. You know, I was really kind of hoping to see Texas and Michigan play in last year's national championship, but Washington was just a bad matchup for Texas. But Texas, dude, they're going to be there at the end of the season. We'll see. Most likely, it's the most important game. The most important game of the year is going to come down to Texas, Georgia, but not the first one. They're going to play here. What is that? Week 7, I guess. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, week 7. They will play in Austin, Texas. That is not the most important one. It will be the SEC championship game because that will determine the seeding and the potential first round bye. That will be the most important one. Period. Because whoever wins in Austin, okay, you're going to get redemption. You possibly get redemption in the SEC championship game, but that determines who the champion is of the conference, and that determines the top 4 seeding in the 12-team playoff. That will be the most important game of the year. Both of these two teams will be in it at the end, unless there's some catastrophic slip up. Anyways, Ohio State's looking good. They haven't really played anybody. See how good they get when they actually play a quality opponent. Curious when that might be. Oregon, Nebraska, Penn State. So in that stretch, we'll probably figure out. Michigan is not a threat to Ohio State at all. I'm not really big on Ohio State's quarterback, but they have skill like everywhere else, so it's not really a big deal. Same kind of deal with Alabama. They have pretty good talent. They're not going to just drop off after Nick Saban left. They're still, maybe another year of decent talent in that organization. Ole Miss, yeah, a lot of these teams will get figured out. Missouri as well, Tennessee, Penn State. Man, SEC dominating that top 7. Jesus, top 7, all SEC except for Ohio State. Penn State, Oregon, there's 2 more Big Ten schools, and Miami. Okay, so Oregon does not look good. I mentioned it last week. I'm not a fan of Dylan, whoever their quarterback is. Oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. There it is. Dylan Gabriel. Yeah, I don't know why I drew a blank on that. Anyways, Dylan Gabriel, not a fan of his. He has not stayed at any one program longer than a year. So, anyways, Miami looks like they could be legit. These are the 2 teams that could be really interesting. Miami and USC. USC looks like they finally have a defense that matches the talent that they've actually had on defense. It's been really weird. I don't know. Maybe they finally got a scheme to go with along with the talent that they have. Miami's looking pretty good as well. Be curious to see. USC will play Michigan here in 2 weeks. Probably shouldn't be an issue, but I'm not really writing Michigan off all that quick. Utah. I haven't really seen Utah play. We'll see. Oklahoma State. They lucked out with a win. Arkansas gave them a win. Arkansas gave that game away against Oklahoma State. Arkansas was cruising in that game, and then they just turnovers, and they just gave it away. Kansas State, yeah, they're an okay team. Oklahoma, yeah, they're an okay team. They're going to beat probably everybody that's not ranked on their schedule. LSU. I don't really know about LSU. They're okay. Yeah, they're okay. They're probably not going to be in contention for the for the SEC. Probably don't make the playoff. We got Michigan. So they got dominated by Texas. Talk about Michigan a little bit. So Michigan. I'm a big Texas fan. I knew Texas was going to do that. I said it last week. Texas is going to win by double digits easy. Michigan. Dude, honestly, I would not put yourself in the toilet. Mostly because you're not going to play many teams like Texas. You'll play Ohio State. It sucks. You have 2 of the top 3 teams on your schedule this year. I get that, but you're not gonna play another team like Texas until you get to Ohio State. I give you a pretty decent chance even against USC here in 2 weeks, mostly because USC's not going to have as many weapons as Texas does running around the field. Like, Texas just has weapons all over, and they can easily go around your best defenders. Like, that's not a problem for them. Other teams are not going to have that luxury. So, Michigan, obviously, you don't have a great quarterback situation. But it's not hard. You just tell your linemen, hey, step forward and just go and run the ball. Just go back to what we know about Michigan football and just run the ball. Obviously, you're going to be able to do that against other teams coming up down the line. So I'm not as worried about Michigan as a lot of people probably are, and I've heard people are like, "Oh my God, what's going on with Michigan?" Like, that game was not about Michigan. That game was about, Texas is really freaking good. So. Not a lot of teams are going to be able to do a game that way. Notre Dame. You know what? I called that shit last week, man. I was like, I don't trust Notre Dame. Beating Texas A&M, who had a losing record last year, bringing in a new head coach. I was not impressed with a win at Kyle Field. Neither of those teams looked impressive. And outside of 2 runs to set up 2 touchdowns for Notre Dame, they weren't impressive. If they didn't get those 2 runs, it's like Notre Dame probably, they might still be in overtime. They were awful. Both those teams were awful, but Notre Dame, they were not impressive. And who did they wind up losing to? I'm going to just jump ahead real quick. Northern Illinois, who is at 25. Why is Notre Dame even ranked at 18? If Michigan and Notre Dame played each other, who would win? Who would win? I would say Michigan wins. Not Notre Dame. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Michigan can at least play defense. Probably not against someone as good as Texas, but Notre Dame has no business being in the top 25. No business. They are not good. They don't look good. They don't look motivated. They don't look motivated until their first loss of the year. So I don't know. Maybe they'll be motivated for the rest of the year. But Notre Dame, I was not impressed with the win at A&M. And there you go. I didn't call them losing to Northern Illinois because there's no reason why a program like Notre Dame should ever be losing to a program like Northern Illinois. Like, that's like we have offensive and defensive linemen that are at least 30 pounds heavier than theirs. We should just be able to run the ball down the field, and it shouldn't be a problem. So, anyways, that's my thoughts on Notre Dame. Louisville, looking forward to actually seeing them play a game. I have not really been able to see them play a game. They're going to get Notre Dame here in 2 weeks. Okay, so I'll be able to. Notre Dame's going to lose that game. Notre Dame's going to lose that game, dude. Arizona. I've not really been able to see Arizona. Didn't they just play an SEC team? Didn't they just play? No. Maybe I'm thinking of Arizona State, maybe? Or New Mexico. Am I thinking of New Mexico? I don't know. All right. They're going to get Kansas State and then Utah next 2 weeks. Okay. So we'll find out about really Kansas State. We'll find out about Arizona and Utah. So, okay. So we'll find out about some of those teams. So let me go back to Utah. Cam Rising got hurt. Now, it didn't look like a super flagrant injury, going out of bounds and hitting like a water cooler platform, wheeled platform. Can't even think of what I was wanting to say about that, but Cam Rising hurt his hand. He did not hurt his head. It looked like he went head first into that thing, but it moved. That's not why he's hurt. He hurt his hand. I think it was his non-throwing hand. So hopefully he's not out for a long period of time, because that dude has had an injury career. So hopefully he's okay and coming back somewhat soon. See what Utah's got coming up. Maybe. So Utah State and then Oklahoma State. So you're probably going to want them back for Oklahoma State, Arizona. So anyways, hopefully they get Cam Rising back pretty soon. Iowa State. So Iowa State with a great win against Iowa. And that's pretty awesome. They don't hardly ever beat Iowa. And there you go. They're going to play Arkansas State this next... Oh, not even this next week. That's in 2 weeks. They're off this week. Okay. Anyways, Iowa State, I like their head coach. I forget his name. Slips my head. Clemson's like another one of those teams. I don't know if they should be ranked, man. Like, I don't know. Maybe they should. Maybe they're a good team. I mean, they got boat raced by Georgia. Georgia controlled and dominated them. Clemson beat up on a team that they should beat up on. So maybe they're just middle of the pack kind of team. See if they make the playoffs, but yeah. Nebraska looking like they're going to be relevant going forward. See if Matt Rule continues to turn that program around. Boston College have not caught, and then obviously we know it. Northern Illinois did win in. That was the biggest game of the weekend. I wouldn't have said that. Obviously, everybody going into the weekend said Texas, Michigan's the biggest game of the weekend. Coming out of the weekend, it was Northern Illinois going into and beating Touchdown Jesus in Notre Dame. Awesome. That is fantastic. Yep. I mean, other than that, I think there's just a lot of mid-tier teams that we just kind of need to figure out if some are legit, if some are, just mid-tier. I think really the way this season sets up, it's a 3-team race as of now, and we'll find out maybe if there's like another couple of teams that have the ability to possibly say, hey, we couldn't take on 2 of these teams in the playoff, but maybe we can knock off one of them. So if you can make it into the national championship game without having to face any one of these 3, and then face one of those teams in the national championship, we'll be curious to see if any of those teams kind of come up. Other than that is college football for week 2. Look forward to going into week 3. There's not really much kind of going on for week 3. Alabama goes to Wisconsin. There's not that many top 25 matchups. There's like 1 or 2. Nothing crazy. As far as the NFL, so my Cowboys, man. First off, my fantasy team got absolutely boat raced. Nobody, I think maybe one, Alvin Kamara is like the only player I had that actually beat their projection. And the Saints defense, because they were playing Carolina. I might take whoever's playing Carolina this week. I might take their defense because Carolina is so bad. They're just so bad. Or maybe I'll go see who Giants are playing. I need to take their defense. Puka Nacua is hurt, so I gotta now replace him. He went out before halftime. He came out of halftime, tried to give it a go, and was like, "Nah, not happening." So, I don't even know how I'm gonna try and fill this up. anyways, played my boy Leo, and he basically every player he had, except for 3, and even Justin Jefferson was actually really close. All of his basically beat their projections. The big one was this one. Saquon Barkley beat his by like 16. I'm like, good God. But like mine were awful. Dude. Puka Nacua really hurt. Mark Andrews didn't get the ball for shit. I might be dumping him because it didn't like dude. Baltimore has a lot of team speed now. They've got a lot speedier, a lot more talent on the wide receiver group. That they look much more competitive, much speedier. Anyways, home. Yeah, NFL man. I'm glad football is back. Hill's agent. Yeah, see, Drew Rosenhaus calling for police officers to be fired. No. Like, you don't fucking disrespect cops by rolling up your window. I'm not saying the cops did anything. Everything was sunshines and rainbows. But they definitely, both sides are to blame on that one. The cops should understand, like, they should not be escalating any situation. Like, they should be put on unpaid leave for like a month. Like, hey, and during that month there should be some counseling sessions like that shit's not okay, man. But for calling for people's jobs, you're a fucking clown, man. Don't fucking do that shit. We got 720. What else is going on? Oh man, what was the new PlayStation came out today? PS5 Pro. So the PlayStation 5 Pro. Yeah, so a lot of people are kind of hitting back at the PlayStation 5 Pro for how much it costs. And you might notice that it's going to be available November 7th, but you see the dollars, $700, 700 pounds, 800 euros, and 120,000 yen. And if you do the exchange rate, figure out 700 pounds of how many dollars, you paying an extra $215, dude. So basically, what they're saying is, go buy it in the States and have it sent to you in the UK, or take it back to the UK with you. Isn't that crazy? Like an extra $215. Like, I was really kind of surprised they didn't make it like, I don't know, 600 pounds. That's nuts, man. That is crazy. I don't know what's so great about it. Graphical fidelity, sure. I would expect good graphics. Oh yeah, that's the other thing is Canadians. Canadians are freaking out because even though theirs wasn't listed on the pricing breakdown, theirs is usually like add on like another 25% or so, 30%, and there you go. You have the Canadian price. So they're like, what the hell? People kind of showing you, hey, this is what you can get for a PC with the specs of what they showed off on the PlayStation.
Wait, where's the disc? Where's the disc drive? $700 US? Where's the disc drive? Where's the disc? Where's the, you are, no. 700, wait, hold on a minute. I gotta do some math.
Damn. You see that?
That's not even with like taxes added on either. Oh my god. Oh my god. So let's just round this to like 1,250. 1,300. Add that on top. That's like $1,500 for a fucking piece of plastic. Get out of here! What, so I can see Cloud Strife's nipples a little bit clearer? Wait, where's the disc? Where's the disc drive?
Oh, damn. I think PlayStation missed the mark. I think they missed the mark, man. Trying to see the difference between PS5 and PS5 Pro graphics. Yeah, dude. It's not really much from the video I saw. Our little screenshot comparison. All right, PS5 Pro CPU. It's the same. Is the same with a 2% boost. Then it's similar to Xbox Series X. And most likely still variable unlike Series X fixed. Wow, that is crazy. It's like 15 years ago when you talked about multiplying the triangles that go into graphics, like a graphical object, by 10. You go from like 60 triangles to 600 triangles. It's like, it looks like nothing. And then now it kind of looks like, okay, it looks like a bodily head type figure. And then 6,000. Oh, okay, you could probably make out what character that would be. Now you got 60,000. It's like, okay. I mean, the forehead's smoother. The skin is smoother. It's crazy. It's like, yeah, I mean, graphics are just, they've gotten so good. It's like, it doesn't matter as much anymore. Wait, what? Sony removed the claiming of PlayStation 5 being able to do 8K from their packaging. Bear the lie for PS5 Pro. Wow. If the PS5 Pro is backwards compatible with all previous PlayStation, trust me, Xbox. Yeah, it's not, because, I mean, they're not going to... That hasn't been a thing for PlayStation. Anyways. Alright, we got about 30 minutes. I thought we would... kind of stinks though. We're still waiting. The Xbox. Are you ducking kidding? Are you ducking kidding me with the controllers where already $20 more than the Xbox Series X, Xbox Series controllers now that's $30 here in Australia? F you, PlayStation. Damn, brutal. High-end gaming has ruined the industry. That's I think Microsoft screwed up when they did the two different consoles. I think they really did. And they did the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X. Because they'll, like, people that got the Series X, like myself, feel like we will never get our value for buying the more expensive console because they have to make games that also run on the Series S. And there's a lot of developers that don't want to build for the Series S. And the Series S is it's not bad. It's good. It's an entry level. It gets you into this current generation of games, but it's not like a great console. Like it just holds back from the high end, right? Because this is where the Xbox Series X is. This is where the S is. You're never gonna get the games will never get to where they're fully capable on X. Because what's the point of developing for the X when you have to develop to the minimum of the S? Are you gonna put in that extra development time? No. Everyone else try out the new Amazon 4K Fire Stick Xbox streaming support. Excuse me. What? Oh. Thought that was my softball team. All right. After the PS5 Pro announcement, the Xbox Series X truly became the best bang for your buck, most certainly the best place to play GTA 6. Yeah, actually, it's not a bad marketing ploy. Actually, GTA 6. I like this. I like the Xbox controller stand. That's pretty cool. All right, anyways, what else we got? What else is there? The Chiefs Ravens game coming down to a toe on the line, the back end zone, as time expired. No go Ravens. No go Ravens. Crazy, man. That was a crazy play. Patrick Mahomes throwing an INT for me. I appreciate that, bud. Really kind of helped my fantasy team with that. Shithead. Packers Eagles. Did not watch that game. But Saquon Barkley just crushed me in fantasy, dude. Jesus. Texans looked pretty good. Not like elite. Cowboys looked really good. Cowboys looked really good against the Browns. Steelers looked okay. They got to find a way to consistently get in the end zone. Bills beat Cardinals. Bills look pretty good. Bears did not look good even though they won. Mostly because turnovers there in the second half from the Titans. Patriots, shocking one. Get the win against the Bengals on the weekend. My goodness, what the hell? Where'd that come from? They need to work on their rush defense, I guess, because Rashard Stevenson effed them up. 25 carries, 120 yards on a tug. Jeez. Dude, Bengals, you want to get on that one. Dolphins beat Jags. Panthers are garbage. Saints won. Saints destroyed them. They have a great defense. That's one reason why I have their defense. Vikings. I'm on hold about the Vikings. I mean, they play the Giants, man. They play the Giants, dude. I'm definitely on hold on the Vikings. It's hard to judge a team that beats another team that's bad. That they're that bad. Anyways, Chargers beat the Raiders. Gardner Minshew. All right. Seahawks beat the Broncos. Bucks Commanders. I don't really know what to think about Commanders either. Lions look pretty good. They look pretty good Sunday night. Beating the Rams in OT. And then 49ers look pretty good against the Jets. Let me go back to Giants. Who are y'all playing this week, bros? Oh, Commanders. I was gonna take the Commanders defense, but I don't trust that. So, where's the Panthers? Chargers. Ooh. Oh, Panthers Pro Bowl D line Brown out for the year. Knee. I might pick up. Let me go into fantasy and let me see if Chargers defense is available. Gold Chargers, goal. Yep, it is. Oh, yeah, I'm definitely not going to have Saints. Definitely not going to have Saints. Playing the freaking Cowboys? No way. All right. So there's that. I need to move Nakua out of here. All right, I'll do Keenan Allen. Hey, use the IR spot. All right, so I can add someone to the bench. I'm going to do that. Let's see if I can add. A wide receiver or TJ's freaking out. Are thought to be loosely targeting a return from a reserve pup list for TJ Hawkinson after the week 6 bye. Okay. Xavier Legette. Rams against Arizona. Tennessee. Okay. So no fucking way. All right. See if I get them boys. All right, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna step away for a few minutes. We're back. All right. Um. What do we got? Shut down. Shut it down. What are we shutting down? This is the government stuff? Yeah. That's funny. Okay. I'm not watching that. I'm not clicking on that thread. Um, oh, this guy's so hilarious.
I come from a long line of tough, trailblazing, and phenomenal women. My grandmother would go into villages in India, because she was Indian and lived in India, and she would go to the villages in India. It was a famous story in our family. My grandfather would say she was going to be the end of his career, but my grandmother would go into the villages with a bullhorn, talking with the women about the need to have access to reproductive.
What a load of scum! This is the biggest bullshit I've ever heard in my entire life. Skamala, your grandmother didn't talk about reproductive health in 1960s Chennai, India? I talked to all my family members in Chennai and they said nobody was talking about reproductive health. They told me, why the fuck would we need birth control? We are Indians. That is how we multiply. Kamala, your grandmother was getting water from the well and cutting goats' heads off to make goat curry in the village. Kamala, do you not know that your own community has to spread its seed? We are Indians. Why the fuck would we need birth control? Scum!
Dude, so funny, man. Oh, God. All right, what else we got? Crowd size matters. I thought they were talking about like Kamala's buns are bigger than Trump's. All right. Let's see. Who cares? The debate's almost here. I'm gonna bring it up on the side screen here.
Do something. So, I did.
Betrayal of fathers.
More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1
10 minutes.
source.
They actually have a countdown going.
Mornings in America. Mornings that inspire, filled with hope, kindness,
There you go.
joyous surprises, and so
Good.
much fun.
A countdown.
America's ray of sunshine. The best of America. Get ready to smile. Put good into your morning.
My team's so garbage.
Reporting from the 2024 Democratic
annoying.
National Convention in Chicago, I'm Kira Phillips. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back. If you're just joining
Ex-Michigan stars see 50 million in lawsuit.
Constitution Center decided tonight's debate now about 10 minutes away.
And I'm Jonathan Carl here with Mary Bruce and Rachel Scott. The candidates are just off the
Woo.
stage, ready to walk out. They are in their hold rooms, just minutes from making that walk. Martha, you have been backstage.
Wow, going after
at
like
this moment. What's it like?
Well, it's stressful, but it's also that time you just say, this is go time. You get in your zone. I'm sure the nominees, the
Braylon
candidates right now
Edwards.
are thinking the same thing. They've studied. They're going to go out, open the curtain.
All right, well then let's bring somebody in who has been there. Both
Edwards won the
debating Donald Trump
Blicknikoff.
and helping him prepare
in
for
yeah,
general
2004. Yeah, I was gonna say like
the
he's an
former
old
governor
school
of New Jersey, Chris Christie. So Chris,
player.
you-
Like,
you
I don't know why
helped
you're,
prepare
dude.
Trump
That is
for this moment
ridiculous.
several times.
This
He
lawsuit
says he
shit
doesn't
is
prepare, but he
ridiculous,
actually
man.
Does bring us into that room right now? What's going on with Donald Trump?
Well, look, at this point, he's in the worst hour of his prep because you just have to sit there and wait for the time to come, and they make you get there early. And so he's there. He's not really being spoken to.
Dude, AI is
You know, a little
goddamn
small talk
crazy.
here and there, but nobody's trying to give him any kind of clues.
So let me ask you
It's
the
go
question.
time.
Let me ask you the question I tried to ask Tom Cotton. He didn't exactly give me an answer, but you will.
America.
Which Trump is going to show up today? You
Yeah,
know what I
here
mean by that.
comes the
Which Trump?
motherfucker day, yeah. All right, so here's the betting odds right now. If you were a better on the U.S. political outcomes,
Inherently, after the 2020 first debate against Joe Biden, that the
Ron
other Donald Trump
DeSantis.
is not the one that's a winning formula.
Holy crap, Ron DeSantis actually had the lead at one
Will he
point.
be able
Back
to
in
continue to maintain that approach
shit, late last year,
through
early,
questioning
very
by
early
David
this year.
Lindsay
Damn,
and through
I had
any
no
comments
idea.
that Vice President Harris makes in his direction.
Anyways,
And that'll be the key to how he performs tonight.
anyways,
You
Newsom.
helped prepare him for those 2016 debates against
He was
Hillary
no,
Clinton.
that was never.
He told you
Legit.
that he had respect for Hillary Clinton, that Hillary Clinton was smart as you were preparing. What about Kamala Harris? We hear not the same.
Well, certainly he's not saying that publicly in any way. And I can tell you that
This is, I believe, the first
he would
debate.
regularly say during the
That
many
can't
debate
be,
prep sessions that we
because
had with
Trump
him,
came out of that thing with
Hillary
so much
Clinton was
momentum.
smart,
Hold on, when
that
was?
she was a good debater,
No,
that
it
she was not to
definitely
be
wasn't
taken
back in
lightly.
May.
And I don't think there was ever a moment in 2016.
It was like
he
here in
took her
June.
lightly.
Oh,
I do
it
think he
must have
took
been like
Joe
right
Biden
here
lightly in 2020.
at the end of June.
And clearly during the
And then
prep
we
sessions that I had
go a
with
couple
him,
weeks, and
very,
then
very
here's the
difficult
assassination
to get him
attempt.
to focus, on what Joe
Springboard
Biden
and
might or
higher.
might not do in that
And it
first
kind of
debate.
faded back down
And I think his
as
performance
Biden dropped out. Harris
reflected that.
came out of
So
like
the question's
nowhere
going to be,
from
is what he's
like one of the
saying
most
publicly what he really
unpopular
believes?
people
We know
ever in
for Donald
politics
Trump, that's performance.
to actually
But I
have
will tell
somewhat
you
of a
that in
lead.
his
Now Trump's
2016
kind of
prep, he was serious about getting ready for Hillary Clinton. In his
getting a
2020
little bit
debate
more
prep, he was completely unserious about getting
of the
ready for
momentum
Joe
back.
Biden. I think
So past 30
performances in both
days,
those debates reflected that approach.
past 3 months.
All right, Chris Christie, you'll be watching with us.
It's just crazy
And
to
we
see
have about
she has
6
come out of
minutes left before
nowhere.
the debate, so let's bring in Donna Brazil, formerly of the
Oh,
DNC.
Astros, what the Fuck, dude.
Welcome to both of you. And Donna,
My
let's
Texas
start with
Longhorns
you.
play
You have
Saturday at
said that
6
Kamala Harris has to
against
own
my
the
actual alma mater,
also has to
UTSA.
own the past. So how does she do this?
So yeah, I actually graduated from UTSA, but I've been a lifelong Texas fan. So it's kind of funny when I was thinking about going to college, I was going to SAC in San Antonio College, community college here in San Antonio, and they're all across the city here. Anyways, I was going to do a 2+2 program, and the second part of that too, I was trying to figure out, do I want to go to Texas or stay in San Antonio? And go to UTSA. UTSA has a very good business school, so I stayed. I regretted nothing. I got a great education. I learned. I got a degree in finance and accounting, mostly finance. But man, I learned from a great couple. There's like three professors that really kind of teach finance at UTSA. They did a great job. They did a great job. Anyways, this McCown kid. So this is Josh McCown's son. Josh McCown that used to play in the NFL. Plays at UTSA. He's okay. He's young. I think he's a sophomore. He might be a freshman. Okay, he is a sophomore. So he played some last year. I knew that. I don't really follow UTSA all that much, but he did play a little bit last year. Rusk, Texas. He looks just like Josh McCown, dude. Jesus, man. I wonder if they have his. Oh, he spent a year up in Buffalo. Hold on. And you all kind of touched on it with Donna. Oh, the 22 season he spent up in Colorado. Economy that she took a role in the Biden administration, the border, her past positions. Anyways, let's Owen McCown. Josh McCown's son. What her role was in Afghanistan. So really, the spotlight is on Kamala Harris tonight because she played a role in the Biden administration. She wants to act. Yeah, UTSA lost this past Saturday to Texas State, who is located in San Marcos, Texas. It's about 45 minutes away or so, about 30 minutes away. It's where my cousin went and graduated from Texas State with a concrete engineering degree. I did not text him about that game. We don't really pay attention to our alma maters. He's a A&M, more of an A&M fan. He doesn't really even follow sports anymore. I talked to him about that this past time we got together. He's like, I don't really have time to follow sports. I just don't follow sports. He's more of an outdoorsy kind of person, so that's what he does. Here's how we're doing. Are we almost time? Is it almost time? The gloves come off in 2 minutes. We'll see how it goes. Bring up my soundboard. Manage my sound. I need to. Current positions. How does she feel about how Biden has done on the economy? I don't know if you get any echo.
Then turn it over and let her.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us tonight, Donna and Reince. We're all staying tuned. Can't wait.
And I have to say, as we are just less than 2 minutes away, this is such an extraordinary moment, and especially, Rachel, when you consider that these two people that have been the center of our lives for the last 2 months have never met each other.
Have never even met each other. And Harris said, if you got something to say, say it to my face. The question tonight, does Donald Trump actually go there? He's questioned her racial identity, he's questioned her intelligence as well, or does he stick to the issues?
Look, this is the largest audience they're likely going to have in this race. It will be interesting to see if Harris can make clear the stark choice before voters. And where does she decide to land her punches? She can punch hard. Can she do that while rising above the needling coming her way? But first and foremost, are we going to see a handshake when the two of them meet for the first time?
We didn't back in 2016 when I did that debate. We'll stand by to see that tonight. But the first time, side to side, together.
And I have my doubts that we're going to see that handshake, but what we are going to see is a spirited debate and perhaps the most consequential general election debate we have ever seen, because almost certainly going to be the last one. So with the stakes so high, the presidential debate just moments away, we have the entire news division keeping an eye on everything. We are going to be fact-checking on
feel
our
free to
live
talk
blog.
or whatever.
It's all going to be happening right here. The debate now, just 10 seconds away, and we will be back.
I don't
with
think
our
there's going to be
show
any breaks. I
as
think
soon
it's
as
only supposed to be
we are
an
going to
hour
toss it
long.
right now to David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Tonight, the high-stakes showdown here in Philadelphia between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Their first face-to-face meeting in this presidential election, their first face-to-face meeting ever.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
This is an ABC News special. The most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris.
Together, we will chart a new way forward.
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Face to face. Historic. The ABC News presidential debate. Here now, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from.
I didn't realize we're just going to get a bunch of pep talk. So, they showed a brief shot above, I guess, the debate stage. Curious if there's going to be people in the crowd? I guess there will be. It looks like there's stadium seating kind of set up. I think we got about 2 minutes. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, you'd think that there would already be people in there seated. If it's going to happen here in 2 minutes.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Is this pre-recorded?
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us, and I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump, will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce-back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back, and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So, Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse, mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan. And it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this, because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices, is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having, on the short end of the stick, in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point. when we know that she was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID?
President Trump will let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's an execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond. But I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs,
who can barely afford childcare as it is have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question. Would you veto?
You could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there had been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formally worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris,
him.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead, we'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where Bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about it. An election is fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The President of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think
up.
we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel. Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
And she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Okay. 1 hour done.
Presidential debate. After this,
I'm gonna leave that a little bit cracked. Are we still awake? I know. I'm not. I hate debates. Even though I like Trump and his policies, and I think it's pretty jacked up of what they've done to him as far as like the courts, and they talked about that. I really can't stand to hear the guy talk. I'll be pretty honest. I never cared for his TV show, The Apprentice. I just could never stand to hear him talk. So he just rambles a little bit too much for me. I just don't like the whole. I don't know. Just I can't stand it. Anyways, what are y'all thinking? How's the we getting things answered? I feel like we never get anything answered out of these things at all.
This beautiful young girl.
I feel like
Police will find out what happened.
At wit's end.
I feel like Trump's kind of got her on basically everything except for like the Roe v. Wade topic. I feel like he wasn't as assertive as he's been in other areas. Other than that, I feel like he's kind of gotten her, but that's just my opinion.
Proud of everything I've done.
Doesn't matter.
Almost.
Baywatch was a whirlwind of epic highs and bitter lows.
I was really kind of surprised they did a break after an hour. I mean, well, they said they're only gonna do like another, I think like another 30 minutes.
Met my soulmate.
You fired 4 times.
Friday, 2020 is all new.
The 32-year-old former ballerina.
The center of the so-called Black Swan trial.
Here we go.
So,
You haven't spoken out before.
yeah, it'd be interesting.
Why did you decide to talk now?
The stunning all-new 2020.
I have up Twitter or X on the side, just kind of looking at some people's reactions and stuff like that. It's interesting, to say the least. People making memes already from the debate. Pretty funny. You know what stinks about political season? It happens to be during football season. I don't really be talking about football and other stuff. Hopefully we'll be back in like a minute. I'll tell you what. Let's see. How many refresh this? Kind of scroll through. I'm gonna turn this up because I can barely hear it. There we go. New meme unlocked. Dude, she did that like almost, I think in the first 5-10 minutes, she did this. Look. I remember laughing at that. That was kind of funny. No one is eating pets. Kamala Harris. Yeah, this picture of this guy carrying a Canadian geese, and then someone put it out there on Instagram or TikTok. Flame-kissed cat. So, yeah, there's plenty of videos out there of animals being eaten. I think a lot of them coming from Springfield recently. Yeah, and this is back when presidential town hall with Senator Kamala Harris.
ABC News Live.
We're back.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
So I guess this is a while ago. This is like several years, like 4 years ago or so. Anyways, this was her like saying there's no question in favor of banning fracking.
World News Tonight
So,
with
but
David
now she's
Muir
not.
is America's most
I need the
watched
votes.
newscast. You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Keep streaming with ABC News.
They said was fake. Leaked audio of 911 from August 26th
Live
to
from
the
the
county
National
Clark County
Constitution Center
Sheriff
in
in Springfield,
Philadelphia,
Ohio shows a caller
Pennsylvania.
reporting 4 Hamas
Here
migrants
again,
carrying dead geese
David
to the
Muir
police.
and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years. Administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more. because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also, as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening. But he does have that, something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not, again, appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking...
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life, to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's
Thank you,
what
Mr.
her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump.
president has
No,
said
I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I just need
going to move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he
President
has said
Trump, this is
multiple
now
times.
your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that, and you'll be hearing about it in the not-too-distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it,
Vice
pass this
President
pro-law
Harris,
in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
She made a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to do. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue.
Closing statements. Good, I can't stand this anymore. So, dude, some of their comments are just so funny, man. Anyways, hopefully you're still alive. You're not brain dead. Let's see. Let's see what the old X is saying. Let me turn this up a little bit so I can hear it. Minnesota summer 2020. Is that summer? Yeah, that was. Yeah, whatever. Now it's just like everybody's posting under this hashtag. Whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Everyone refreshing Twitter to argue with people. Yeah, pretty much. Take a shot every time Trump lies or deflects a question. Yeah, they're both pretty good at deflecting. They're both pretty good at deflecting. If you wonder why ABC moderators are trying to discredit Trump every time he finishes a sentence, because David Murray covers him negatively 93% of the time. Well, I mean, that's a scene.
Thank you for making ABC News
#1 news.
Get ready, America, every Friday.
The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy the right stuff.
Yes!
And save big time, too.
The right stuff.
Fridays on GMA. You're gonna love it.
This is Impact by Nightline.
Are you kidding me?
My sense was that everybody around him was afraid of him.
Brittany describes having a secret abortion that not even her family knew about.
I'd be curious to see what some people think.
Like between Harry and William
are
today?
certain
What did people start to
people
say?
You look great. Are you on Ozempic?
I told the kids, I said, I'm not
are
even
they
gonna let
getting
you
their
eat breakfast
questions
until you get your chores done.
answered
She talks about tough love and harsh
on
punishment.
whatever,
No, it's abuse.
whatever they wanted to see, I,
think
guess.
Scott Peterson murdered his wife and his child. Prove me
I
wrong.
hope so.
Do you feel the church accepted
Hopefully, this
abuse?
answers some things
that's him.
for some people.
Ready? Does your church protect sexual predators?
How do you top
I don't
the
think-
most watched season yet?
Fabulous.
It's a
bit erotic, a bit exotic.
I did feel like this debate was a lot more about her, about Harris,
this
than
September
Trump.
only on Hulu.
If you were coming of age in the
And
1980s, the Brat Pack was neither
she hasn't
the center
been
of your cultural
horrible.
awareness, but
Like
for those
she's
of
done
us
better than what I
experiencing
thought
it from
she
the
was
inside,
going
the Brat
to.
Pack was something very different.
I think.
If you have Brat Pack
I think she has a lot of skeletons in previous things that she's said in the past that Trump brings up that
Well, we didn't fill Shea Stadium.
they're almost like indefensible.
I think we could have.
But
Let's go.
We are heading into the unknown.
I think she's been okay.
saw what no one
She's been better than what I thought, and I did not have high hopes for her at all. I'm not saying she's doing good. I'm just saying she's like I would have thought she was gonna come in and done pretty horribly. And I would say she's just done bad.
Reporting from the floor of the Republican National Convention,
Trump
I'm
is,
Rachel Scott. Wherever the story is, we'll take
to me,
you
just
there.
kind of
You're streaming ABC News
dominated a little bit. On he's even kind of
Live from the
dominated over the
National
moderators.
Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
What is this?
Here again, David Muir
Watch
and Lindsay
AAA.
Davis.
Welcome
both
back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like We're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good.
They did a pretty good job moderating. I'll be pretty honest. I thought they did a pretty good job. What do y'all think? Any takers to debate me on if the moderators did a good job? Yeah, it was. I mean, did Kamala Harris prove? This is what she needed to prove. She needed to prove if she was going to be able to go toe-to-toe with world leaders. Well, there was a former one, right? There was a former one. So, she tried to cater a little bit. Like, she tried to be, like, a little too motherly, kind of like emotional. Like, oh, we need to get past this, and stuff like that people kind of see right through on these kind of stages. So, anyways, yeah, that was kind of funny. Yeah, what? They're eating pets? Yo, get this man out of my face right now. Yeah, bro, it's happening. Robert Kennedy Jr., VP Harris sounds like she just admitted the COVID virus originated in a lab. That was one of the conspiracy theories the Biden-Harris administration censored on the internet. That is very true. I was actually kind of surprised that Trump didn't mention that. I remember that was like one of the first one or two topics that was kind of brought up. Man, it was kind of weird. Like, this debate was weird because like they started talking about one topic, and then they started talking about, like, as they're talking about one topic, one of them would transition to another topic, and the other person would need to respond to what that topic that person ended on. It was just like, what the hell? Can y'all just talk about the topic the damn narrators are trying to freaking get y'all to talk about? I don't think Kamala did enough to impress enough of voters. That's my opinion. It doesn't mean she won't win, but we'll see. Anyways, let me know if there's anything you guys want to look up. We can look up something, see if we can take a look back. Actually, since I just closed that out, I'd probably have to re-bring that up. But we can go back and re-look at something if there's anything you guys want to take a look at. Other than that, I'm tired of standing. I'll probably just get off here in like a couple minutes if y'all don't have anything. But I appreciate everybody for hanging out. Kamala will be behind a smaller podium than Trump during the presidential debate. The Harris campaign made the request so she wouldn't look smaller in stature to Trump. Hey, a Trump campaign official mocked Harris. It looks like the kids' table at Thanksgiving. That is kind of funny. I mean, Yeah, it is what it is. Like I didn't realize this, but he's like 6'3", 6'4". I did not know that. I did not know Trump was that tall. And she's probably like 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", whatever the average height of the woman is. Probably 5'9", 5'10", something like that. Did not notice that. That's kind of funny. Just so you know, her reaction to pets being harmed and eaten is to laugh at. Dude, it is crazy that that's even being brought up in a goddamn presidential debate. That's what's crazy. Yeah. Donald Trump left us with the worst attack on democracy since Civil War. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris says tomorrow's 9/11. Donald Trump just challenged Kamala Harris on live TV to go to the White House, wake Joe Biden up and sign a bill, close the border tonight. This might just give one the entire rate. That was actually, dude, when he mentioned that, when he did say that, and when he was making that point and the other points about why hasn't they done it, those were really good points, man. Those are really good points. I think bringing that up, and she didn't have a comeback for any of that. She had no comebacks for those. I think he did that like twice. Anyway, save our pets. Dude, the memes on this whole Trump save our pets thing is just, it's gotten ridiculous, man. By the way, AI has gotten really good, man. It is really impressive. CJ Pearson. It wasn't Donald Trump who started the conversation about whether or not Kamala Harris is black. It was the black community. Kamala Harris didn't identify as black until she wanted black votes. Signed, a young black man. Okay, there you go. CJ Pearson. RFK Jr. says, no matter what you say, no matter what state you live in, you should be voting for Donald Trump. We have to unify. We have to overthrow the entrenched elites who are now running our country. Oh, yeah. So if you haven't seen this over the past, I don't know, week or two, she's met with different black community leaders and people in black communities, and basically has said, has like agreed to, she didn't say, but she agreed to people. Oh, here you go. This video of them basically saying like, hey, we need black specific stuff. Let me just play this. I'll just play this.
Those people in a position, and everybody know the history. Yeah. Everybody understands the history of America. That's right. America, you did this to these people. You should write laws for these people. Don't group us in with everybody, because everybody didn't happen to everybody. But let's be fair. We playing from behind the 8 ball. We way back there, 400 years back there. We're not asking y'all to give us nothing. We actually write the law. Those of us who are willing and able to do the work, will do the work. That's right. That's what we need. That's right.
So it's funny that people bring that up. Y'all, I'm not gonna say y'all. People wanted to end, obviously, slavery and then segregation later. That ended, I think, in the 60s, maybe 50s, 60s, in the 60s. So segregation ended in the 60s. What, you want to bring segregation back? You talking about stuff just for you guys? So, I mean, I don't get that. I don't know what the point is. And she just sits there and nods, like she's headbanging. Wisconsinites. Oh, that's 13 hours ago. I don't care about 13 hours ago. Kamala makes sure Donald Trump shook her hand after he called her a bitch only a few weeks ago. It was so iconic. He called her a bitch? I haven't seen anything about that. All right. Yeah. It was fun. I'll be interested to see kind of what happens after maybe what some of the other people out there kind of think about some things. Like if you've been up to date and you've been following politics, or you kind of know everybody's both sides stance and where both sides are, like this probably didn't do a damn thing for you. But if you came into this needing to get a couple of things answered, then this might have swung you one way or the other. And I mean, that's the whole point of the debates, right? To get some questions answered. So hopefully this helped out some people out there. Unreal. Kamala is blaming Trump for the border crisis. Here's a video of her being appointed border czar and accepting the position. So there you go. I actually have never seen this video of her actually being appointed. I just knew she was appointed. Definitely not opening that thread. Trump was right. Virginia's governor endorsed post-birth abortion. This is why he brings something. All right. Let me clarify something. Both sides do this. Okay, I want to clarify something. Both sides fucking do this. All right. There is somebody in one party or the other that says stupidly outlandish things that the other party will then campaign and say, "Oh yeah, their party said that." And it's like, I didn't lie when they said that because they did say that. But both sides do it. Both sides have nut jobs. We all know this. Both sides have nut jobs. And it sucks because those are the only kind of people that we get elected to office is nut jobs. Clark County Communications Call Center. Ooh, is this about the pet thing? Is this the pet thing? Oh shit, man, this is small ass. They're Haitian because he was in earshot of them speaking Haitian. Oh man, I ain't reading this. God damn it. What? There have been no credible reports. Yeah, there has been credible reports. There was some Jose, my bro. Bro, you missed it, man. You missed it. You missed the debate. It went on for an hour and a half, and it was god awful. I hate debates, man. I also can't stand to hear Trump talk because I've never cared to hear Trump talk. That is by far the longest I've ever heard. Oh, you did watch the debate? That's the longest I've ever listened to Trump. I could never stand his show, The Apprentice. I never could watch that show because I can't stand the way he talks. He rambles a little bit too much for me. I'm not saying he's not smart. I don't like his policy, and I'm not saying he's not smart and that I don't like his policies, because I do. But my God, I just can't stand the way he talks. Just can't stand his voice. And it's not like I can stand hers either. But what do you think? What do you think, dude? What do you think about the? Did you go into it kind of knowing who you were going to vote for? Are you going to vote? I guess since we're on a little bit of delay, did you know who you're going to vote for before Did the debate change your opinion on who you're going to vote for after the debate? Under Governor Tim Walz, babies born alive in botched abortions were left to die. Then he removed reporting requirements. Yeah, so this is another thing. Removed reporting requirements. That thing, that's how they manipulate a lot of data. They change reporting requirements. That shit needs to stop, especially at the federal level. Economic data, especially. The ABC moderator decided to interject herself in the debate. Here are the facts here is a fact check on babies left to die after surviving abortion on Tim Walz's Minnesota. ABC News fails to fact check Kamala Harris after she falsely claims Trump called neo-Nazis in Charlottesville very fine people. I guess I missed that. The claim was even fact-checked by Snopes. ABC has spent much of the night fact-checking Trump, but refuses to do the same for Harris. Yeah, the January 6th thing, I'll give you my take on January 6th. When it initially happened, I, like a lot of people, were not happy that it happened at all. And I did blame Trump. After a lot of the evidence came out about the January 6th event 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago. 3 years and 9 months ago. How about that? It's been kind of like, there were some massive failures. And he kind of alluded to it tonight. He told the mayor of Washington, D.C. and Nancy Pelosi, who was the head of Speaker of the House. So she's the one in charge of Congress, right? And he said, like, hey, there might be a pretty large rally. You should probably bring in the National Guard. That lady who killed a cat was months ago and not in Springfield. Oh, really? It wasn't in Springfield? Well, it says Ohio body cam. So where was it at? So it was somewhere in Ohio. Give me a sec. Stop. Let me see. I was trying to see if there was a city associated with this. So it's somewhere in Ohio. Like 100 miles away from Springfield. So where's the Springfield thing kind of going down? Springfield. Is this Springfield, Massachusetts? There's a Springfield in like every state, man. Springfield, Ohio. I'm going to go to Springfield because I'd imagine it kind of comes up. Springfield, Ohio is the one that... But you're saying, Jose, that video of that lady that got arrested, that was from months ago and was not in Springfield. Was that so hold on. So was then this video. So was that lady, was she foreign? Is she a foreign person? Is she like illegal or do you know? Because the article I saw where I first saw this is that she wasn't illegal. Nowadays, it's like I got a freaking. You know what? Can I get a close up on one of these cops? Nowadays, it's like I got to get like 5 freaking sources to. I can't see that badge. To verify information. Felony up to 10 years of prison. This is horrific. Woman arrested in Ohio. This just says in Ohio. In case you missed it, illegal Haitians in Springfield, Ohio have been eating local. So this post says this woman was, referencing the video, was in Ohio for eating a neighbor's pet cat. And then, in case you missed it, illegal Haitians in Springfield, Ohio have also been eating local geese, ducks, and cat. No clothes she's worn, no. Okay. I saw that she was, but it's like, dude, I like the information, the fucking information comes out so quick, so rapid, so fast. One of the things I love about X is the community notes thing. Can I always come back and check my community notes on whatever post I liked or whatever, because it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna tag that. And then, yeah, I mean, the community notes people, kind of, fix it later. So I get the notification. I love that, man. I love that damn feature. It's so nice. Kamala Harris just stated that January 6th was worse than 9/11. Yeah. No, it wasn't. If you make a claim, you're responsible for providing the evidence. Don't just say shit and then shrug when questioned. Yeah. Are you talking about me? Are you calling me out? Jose, don't call me out, man. Dude, that's all I know about Trump. Well, David. See. Dude, there's just so much shit out there. Hey, what do you think about the football first weekend? I'll be curious to see how much this changes tomorrow. These betting odds. I kind of agree that hold on. I kind of agree that January 6th was worse for our country than 9/11. January 6th was a self-inflicted attack. We should know better. You know what's interesting about January 6th? So, I used to have that take. I would say I would have agreed with you. But understanding really, I'm not saying you don't understand, Jose. But seeing that, how things got misconstrued really kind of changed my mind on things on January 6th. I was not, the thing I'll tell you about January 6th, and there's batshit crazy people on both sides. I'm not going to fucking excuse that. The thing I fucking did not like about it was that goddamn the Confederate flag going through the Capitol. Fucking hated that shit. That was the only time it's ever happened. It didn't even happen 150 years ago. It's bullshit. I was not happy about that. So my Tampa did good. How did they look? So I know you probably watched the game. How did your Tampa look? Because I wasn't able to watch that game. Let's see. I heard Baker Mayfield did good. Where are they at? There they are. Oh, they played the Commanders. Dude. Baker Mayfield tore it up 4 tugs. Jeez. He was probably the fantasy genius that week for quarterbacks. My goodness. My quarterback sucked, and I have freaking Patrick Mahomes. The next week we have Lions. Ooh. Lions. Really? On Fox at noon. I really hope I get that fucking game. That would be a good game. Do the Bucs still have a good that good ass defense that they've had for shit like the past 6 years or so? They still have a good defense like that? Let's see. Damn it. Saints. God damn it. I won't be able to see your game. I won't be able to see the Buccaneers. I'll see the Saints Cowboys at noon. That blows. That blows. They looked good. I saw it. Defense was a little squeamish. I expect at least a winning record. Dude, it's going to come down to you and the Saints. It's going to come down to you and the Saints. Saints look pretty good. Derek Carr's second year in the Saints system. And the Saints looked, I mean, they played the Panthers, but they looked good even though they played the Panthers. They also do have Alvin Kamara. So I think it'll be down to you and the Saints. That's who it's going to come down to. I mean, Panthers aren't going to be, they're not going to be shit. And Falcons, I mean, unless they're trying to run everywhere with my boy Bijan Robinson. Where you at? I mean, they got nothing, dude. Falcons got nothing. They might be going for number 1 pick. Oh, no, they got Michael Penix. Totally forgot about that. That's right. They picked up, the guy from the Vikings quarterback. And then they drafted Michael Penix. I totally forgot about that. Falcons could be interesting. I don't know about their defense. They could be okay. But I still think it'll come down to Tampa Bay and Saints. Defense is okay. I don't expect it to be lights out. Not anymore. Atlanta, Carolina are rebuilding. What team had a great defense this week besides maybe the Bears and 49ers? Well, the Bears literally won with their defense and special teams. So, yeah, there's that. Let's see. Niners had a pretty good defense. The Chargers had a pretty... I would say Chargers had a pretty good defense. But they also played the freaking Raiders. That's a great question. Vikings, you don't know how good their defense is because they played the damn Giants. Giants will probably get the number 1 pick. They will probably draft my Quinn Ewers, man, from Texas. That'd be my guess. Game against Giants. Yeah, dude, for real. Oh, man. They absolutely do not count. Them and Panthers. Like, the number 1 pick's going to come down to Giants-Panthers. That's my guess. Giants literally don't have an offense. Panthers, they have a quarterback they drafted number 1 overall last year, so they're probably not number. Was he number 1 overall? I think he was number 1 overall. Yeah. So, they're trying. They're probably still trying to develop him. Bryce Young. Yeah, Bryce Young. So I don't know. I'm be curious to watch the Panthers, even though it probably won't be fun to watch, but I kind of just want to watch and see how bad that team is. Texans look freaking good. Texas look pretty good. Even though that game wound up being closer than what it should have been. The game was closer than what it was. Hear about Hill getting put in. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, it's crazy. And did you see Drew Rosenhaus calls for the firing of the cops? Dude, all that freaking body cam footage that got released yesterday was crazy. And you know what the craziest part about that? I'll search it up. Yeah, here we go. Is he anyways, I don't know what I was thinking. When Drew Rosenhaus called for those cops to be fired, and I'm like, bro, don't do that. Like, these cops escalated way too aggressively, but Tyreek right about here. He rolls up his window, and that is very disrespectful. And that's just where it starts to spiral. And he doesn't roll it right back down. And then when he rolls it down here in like 3 seconds, he cracks it. There it is. And like he's not just obeying. Like all you got to do is obey. And then this cop comes over and gets hostile.
Get up.
And I'm like, bro. When I saw that, so like this cop's standing back here, this cop's standing back in the back. This guy that walks over, this is the guy that initiates talking with Tyreek at the window. At the window. And it's like, why did they escalate so quickly? They got really aggressive. And like all that because he rolled up his window? Like, I'm not saying Tyreek should have rolled up his window like that on a cop, because that is kind of like disrespectful. And the cop wants to see that, hey, wants to make sure you're not like pulling out a gun or something. I don't know, man. That was probably like the only thing. And then they walk him over there, and then the other cop jumps on him to get him to sit down. It's like he's trying to like sit down, and then this cop comes over and jumps on him. Like, I don't know, man. Dude, are you talking about the cops' tats, or are you talking about Tyreek's tats? So the cop, I know because you're talking about the cop. So the cop on his hands, I know exactly what you're talking about. I saw this earlier. That dude's got tats all up and down, all over his hands. I'm like, bro, are you in a gang or something? Like, I mean, I get it. Like, tattoos are much more prevalent nowadays, but yeah, dude, that is crazy to see tattoos like that on somebody. Like, you see tattoos on someone like that, especially like where I'm at in San Antonio, dude, you're thinking they're probably like in the cartel. Not gonna lie, man. Not gonna lie. So I don't know, man. That is some crazy ass shit. But like going over and putting handcuffs on like Tyreek Hill's like teammates and shit like that were just trying to figure out like what's going on, like why you got our teammate on the ground and shit. And it's just, yeah, man. It does not look good for the cops, but the rolling up the window, like that is no reason to escalate something. I mean, that's no reason to escalate something, but yeah, don't say that you were just, oh yeah, man, I was doing exactly what they told me to do. Like, bro, we're gonna find out. And so, all right, hold on. I'm gonna go back to that. I'm gonna go back to this footage. So here's the initial interaction. I want you to listen to this. Oh, hold on. I gotta unmute.
Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Why don't you have your seatbelt on?
Why don't you have your seatbelt on? That's the first thing he says. Not, hey, I'm pulling you over for speeding. Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Usually, cop says, do you know why I pulled you over? To see if you admit to guilt on other things. But if he pulled you over for seatbelt, if that's why he pulled you over, let me tell you something. You ain't seen in them windows. Because there's after. Like, you can't see in them windows. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's all jacked. It didn't look good Sunday because every pedestrian driving by, they were putting up videos of this. Not saying he's racist, but standing on a black man's back. He may not think he's racist, but his actions aren't helping. No, dude, they were aggressive. They were, and it's a 4-on-1 type situation. They were kind of aggressive. Yeah. I know this this guy, I like him as a content creator. He's a former cop, I believe, from Arizona. I think he's in Arizona. And I know he's gonna say like, dude, you gotta leave the window down. And I agree. But dude, that does not just because you roll up the window does not excuse you to be hostile and aggressive towards somebody. Dude, this cop. I hadn't seen this video. Oh, I haven't seen this video. Black man, nice car, must be armed. It's a drug dealer. Hold on. That's the other thing. I want to see when they initially... Oh, there he goes. There goes Tyreek. So was Tyreek going a little bit quick there? Let's see. Was he going a little bit quick? Car's not going too... The other cars aren't going too fast. I'd say Tyreek going a little... He's speeding, so that's probably why they did pull him over, was for speeding. I hadn't seen this video. Damn. Your desire for safety does not mean you get to assault me. That's what always pisses me off. Yeah, I mean, they, like, both sides need to admit, like, hey, we fucked up. Tyreek fucked up. Like, he's speeding. And he put up the window. He shouldn't have put up the window. Like, I see that going completely different if he doesn't put up the window. And he didn't immediately put it back down. But there's no need to get aggressive there. Like, he's not trying to leave or anything. You know, there's no need to get like uberly aggressive. I'm thinking, dude, you say black man, nice car, must be armed. I'm thinking black man outside of NFL stadium. I'm like, I got to be very careful here. I have a multi-million-dollar asset in my possession. Yeah, it took a very dangerous job to make it. My problem, you deal with criminals. Yeah, dude. Anyways, both sides need to like own it. Tyreek fucked up. I have no idea why he rolled up the window, but he did. He needs to own it. Cops need to be on. They need to go on a little administrative leave time. And yeah. All right, my man Jose, it's good talking with you. And we'll see how the football season goes. I couldn't believe the Patriots beat the Bengals, but it's the Bengals week 1. Bengals week 1 never show up, so I'm kind of not surprised, but I'm just surprised it was the Patriots that got it. It's almost like the NFL tried to give the Bengals a week 1 win, and the Bengals were like, "Nah, man, I'm good. I'll take that week 1 L." Oh yeah, and then Tyreek turns around after that incident and then gets 7 receptions, 130 yards, and a tug. That dude's freaking crazy. Crazy good, man. Yeah, man. Diablo 4. Dude, my buddy Diet's been playing it. He's really enjoying it. So he's really enjoying it right now. Alrighty, buddy. Everybody, appreciate y'all hanging out. You have a great night.